Huh?
You probably imagine them running, chasing mammoths across frozen plains, fighting off predators with crude spears, surviving every single moment on raw instinct and sheer desperation. That's the version you've seen in films. That's the version your brain finds easiest to accept. But it's almost entirely wrong. For the vast majority of human prehistory, your ancestors spent most of their day doing something that would feel deeply familiar to you. They sat around, they talked, they groomed each other, they napped in the shade, they played, they argued about nothing important. They watched the horizon and let their minds wander. Sound familiar? The picture of ancient human daily life that emerges from modern anthropology, archaeology, and the study of contemporary hunter-gatherer societies is not one of constant heroic struggle. It is one of surprising leisure, deep social connection, and a relationship with time that modern humans have almost completely lost. And understanding what your ancestors actually did all day might explain more about who you are right now than almost anything else. Let us go back, not to a dramatic moment of survival, but to an ordinary morning. Somewhere in East Africa, roughly 200,000 years ago, the sun has just risen. A small group of around 25 to 50 people stirs awake near a water source. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham, whose research into the role of cooking in human evolution transformed the field, estimates that a group this size would have needed only 3 to 5 hours of active foraging per day to meet their caloric needs. 3 to 5 hours. Not 12, not 8. 3 to 5. The rest of the day was theirs. This is one of the most counterintuitive findings in modern anthropology. Studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer populations, the Hadza of Tanzania, the Kungsan of the Kalahari, the Agta of the Philippines, consistently show the same pattern. Adults in these societies work, by any reasonable definition of the word, between 3 and 6 hours per day. Children work even less. The elderly are cared for. Nobody punches a clock. Anthropologist Marshall Salins famously described this in 1966 as the original affluent society, not wealthy in the modern sense, wealthy in time, wealthy in the one resource that the modern world has systematically stripped away from almost every human being alive today. So what did they actually do with those hours? The single most common activity, documented consistently across hunter-gatherer studies, is conversation. Your ancestors talked, constantly, enthusiastically, and about a surprisingly specific range of topics. Psychologist Robin Dunbar, whose research on the social brain hypothesis reshaped our understanding of why human intelligence evolved, found that in contemporary traditional societies, roughly 65% of all conversation time is spent on social topics. Who did what? Who said what to whom? Who is reliable? Who cannot be trusted? Who is sleeping with whose partner? Gossip, in other words. This is not trivial. Dunbar's research suggests that language itself evolved primarily as a tool for social bonding, a kind of vocal grooming that allowed humans to maintain relationships with far more individuals than any other primate. A chimpanzee can physically groom perhaps 20 to 30 individuals and maintain meaningful social bonds with each of them. Your ancestors, by talking, could maintain bonds with up to 150 people simultaneously. This number, now known as Dunbar's number, appears again and again in human social structures, across cultures, and throughout history. Your need to know what is happening in other people's lives, your compulsion to share information about yourself, your inability to resist a piece of social drama. These are not weaknesses. These are the core social technologies that built human civilization, refined over hundreds of thousands of years of fireside conversation. After talking came rest. Hunter-gatherer societies typically observed a pronounced midday rest period during the hottest hours of the day, not a brief pause, a genuine, extended period of sleep or quiet inactivity lasting 1 to 3 hours. Sleep researcher Jerome Siegel, who studied sleep patterns in pre-industrial societies, including the Hadza, San and Tsimane, found that these groups did not follow the rigid 8-hour single sleep block that modern medicine prescribes. They slept when they needed to. They rested in the middle of the day without guilt. They woke during the night, talked quietly by dying embers, then returned to sleep. The insomnia epidemic of the modern world, the guilt around napping, the cultural pressure to be productive at every waking moment, none of this existed. Your body was designed for a far more fluid relationship with sleep and rest than the one industrial society has imposed on it. After rest came play. This is perhaps the most surprising finding for modern sensibilities. Adults in hunter-gatherer societies played, regularly, unself-consciously. They danced, often for hours. They sang. They told stories with elaborate physical performance, mimicking animals, acting out hunts that happened years ago, inventing characters and scenarios that had no practical purpose whatsoever. They made music with simple instruments. They decorated objects and bodies with pigments and shells. The oldest known art, found in caves across Europe, Africa, and Southeast Asia, was made by people who also spent large portions of their day doing nothing economically productive. Creativity was not a luxury, it was a daily activity. Your ancestors also spent significant time in what researchers call social grooming, physically tending to each other's bodies, removing parasites, tending wounds, braiding hair where it existed, applying pigments, simply touching. Physical contact between members of a group was constant and unremarkable. The isolation of modern bodies, the personal space, the avoidance of casual touch, the mediation of almost all intimacy through screens, would have been not just foreign to your ancestors, but deeply distressing. Your nervous system still expects a level of physical connection that most modern lives simply do not provide. Children in these societies were given something that modern childhood has almost entirely eliminated: unstructured time. Anthropologist David Lancy, who has spent decades studying childhood across cultures, found that in traditional societies, children are rarely directed, rarely taught through formal instruction, and rarely scheduled. They are given tools when they ask for them. They are allowed to observe adult work without being enrolled in it. They spend most of their waking hours in mixed-age play groups, learning everything they need to know through imitation, experimentation, and failure, with minimal adult intervention. The result across these societies is children who are competent, confident, and deeply embedded in their community by early adolescence, not because they were pushed, because they were given time. As the afternoon moved toward evening, the group would have drifted back toward a central location. Food would have been shared, not privately, not individually, but communally. Sharing was not generosity in the modern sense. It was a survival technology. A hunter who returned with meat and kept it entirely for himself was not just selfish, he was dangerous. He was weakening the reciprocal network that kept everyone alive through the inevitable lean weeks and failed hunts. The expectation of sharing, the discomfort you feel when someone takes more than their portion, the satisfaction of providing for others, the social warmth of a communal meal. These are ancient technologies running in modern bodies every single day. And then came the fire. Every major study of hunter-gatherer evening life identifies the fire as the social center of the day. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent decades studying the Juhuansi people of the Kalahari and found a striking difference between daytime conversation and nighttime conversation around the fire. Daytime talk was practical, economic, and frequently contentious. Nighttime talk, by firelight, was almost entirely narrative. Stories, myths, descriptions of places far away, accounts of ancestors, explanations of why the world is the way it is. Wiesner's research suggests that firelight extended the social day and created a protected space for imagination. The flickering light, the warmth, the darkness beyond, this specific sensory environment appears to have shaped the way human brains process narrative, meaning, and identity. You are drawn to candlelight, to campfires, to the particular warmth of low artificial light in the evening, because your brain was literally built around that environment for hundreds of thousands of years. The harsh blue light of a screen at 11 p.m. is fighting every signal your ancient brain is sending. This is what your ancestors actually did all day. They talked, they rested, they played, they touched each other, they fed each other, they told stories by firelight until sleep came naturally. They were not struggling to survive every moment. They were living deeply, socially, physically, imaginatively, in a way that modern life, for all its comfort and convenience, has made almost impossible to replicate. The restlessness you feel, the longing for something you cannot name, the sense that time is always running out, that rest is something to be earned, that you should always be doing more. These feelings are not signs of personal failure. They are the signals of an ancient social creature trying to remember what it was built for. You were built for the fire. You were built for the conversation. You were built for the afternoon rest and the evening story and the hands of people you trusted touching you without hesitation. You were built for a day that no longer exists, and somewhere quietly, your body still remembers every hour of it.
See you next time!